So when we look at silver, silver moves pretty interesting. It has these parabolic, these explosive moves. Gold's more of a grind, where silver can really kind of just pop and take off in a huge way. And it becomes kind of a crowded trade, a Main Street trade. It attracts a lot of people who want to get into a speculative, really interesting, how to make a lot of money fast. And it's always had that. And that's why it creates these big movements. So, sure. Yeah, when you take a look at silver, the last two trading sessions particularly, including today, has been a pretty big move. We're seeing silver up about 2% today. It was up over 2% yesterday. And you can see these big green bars were over that 24, which is a nice number to be over. But in the grand scheme of things, we are still seeing a series of lower highs and more or less lower lows in silver. So it's not in a new uptrend just yet. When we zoom out to the big picture of silver, we can see here silver's trading in this large bull flag pattern. It just came down to long-term support around this 22 level and quickly reversed back up. So maybe we've put in a bottom. There are a couple of other leading indicators. When we take a look at, for example, like silver miners, silver miners are starting to come back to life. Now, they haven't made higher highs just yet, but when we take a look at gold miners, which I like to look at gold miners as the kind of the true leading indicator, they have broken a previous high that we saw last month. And so gold miners are really starting to break and run to the upside. They're above this blue line, which is the 50-day moving average, which is a pretty critical level. Typically, once you get above it, you can start a new uptrend. And so we are above that level, and gold miners are usually the first to run. And then we kind of see gold and silver miners and silver, physical silvers, sometimes the last one to actually really break out and confirm a new uptrend. So it's kind of a nice leading indicator, especially if you like silver, because you can kind of get involved in it before it really fully turns around because of looking at these leveraged plays on precious metals. The market has run up, hit this resistance level, pulled back, and then busted through it. And so now we're coming up to this next level here, which is around the $25, which is, it's a pretty solid number. Typically people at $5 increments and $10 increments for metals, they act as resistance when you're below them. They act as support when you're above them. So we are coming up to that resistance level. So if we can break through 25, the first pause or pullback after that can be bought. That'll be a shift in momentum. If something breaks through two resistance levels, that means it's got some upward momentum. And by doing that, it's most likely starting to make some lower or some higher lows as well. So that's kind of what we're looking for. A break of 25, the first pause or pullback can be bought, and it should have quite a bit of momentum to go back up to this, probably the 28 level, which is where the next major resistance level is going to be. So there's still some work to do in silver. It's in a downtrend, but long term, I mean, the charts look great, and this is like the very early sign that it might be turning around, but it is still trying to pick a bottom at this point if you're a short-term, speculative player. Yeah, gold chart's very similar to silver. I mean, it's still making a series of lower highs over the last several months, lower lows, and it's flirting with the 50-day moving average. It's under the 200-day moving average. So, I mean, it's still in a bearish phase. The long-term chart is a major bull flag pointing to $2,500, $2,600 over the next year or two. But a short-term standpoint, it's really trading sideways. It's in like in a kind of accumulation stage where investors and traders are kind of just swapping contracts. Everyone's trying to get repositioned, people giving up on it, new people moving in. When that process is done, which I feel as though we are getting right to that turning point as we go into the end of the year here, then we're going to go higher. But again, it's stuck in that sideways to bearish trend right now. And I think it's just a waiting game. Wait for this momentum to shift, show us some higher highs, show us some higher lows, and that's the definition of a new uptrend. And then from there on, hopefully we'll see it take off. After a strong surge, we pretty much always see a sideways pause or some type of pullback. And that's perfectly healthy. And I do think if the stock market does pause or pull back a little bit, and we see gold miners actually hold up and take leadership, that's going to be an even further indication that precious metals and miners are becoming that defensive kind of late bull market stage play for investors. The stock market shows a little bit of weakness and people move into the precious metals sector. That's a really good sign, and that can last several months. So we might start to see miners and metals move a lot higher here. And we're going to just have to let it play out over the next couple weeks to get a gauge. Is there actually people moving into these metals and miners as the market struggles? And if so, I mean, that's a good sign that this precious metals market is starting its new uptrend. So when we look at silver, silver moves pretty interesting. It has these parabolic, these explosive moves. Gold's more of a grind, where silver can really kind of just pop and take off in a huge way. And it becomes kind of a crowded trade, a Main Street trade. It attracts a lot of people who want to get into a speculative, really interesting, how to make a lot of money fast. And it's always had that. And that's why it creates these big movements. So when silver starts to move, which is why I'm a big fan of silver, I'm more heavyweight silver than anything else. When they start to move, silver could pop to that $45, $80 level, potentially even higher. You never know where these type of plays are going to go. You look at the last spikes that we've seen in silver over the last 20 years. I mean, when it spikes, the next one, we could get up to that $80 per ounce in silver, which would be absolutely amazing. And that's just based on kind of chart patterns and momentum. If there is actually some type of currency or some other type of issue, we could see it go a heck of a lot higher. But silver is kind of that, feather in the cap. If you've got it and it does pop, you're going to make a fortune. And that's why a lot of people have it. It seems like it's one of the most undervalued metals out there. It's just constantly pounded and held down, yet it's probably the most held. Everybody just keeps accumulating it. So I like silver, and it's got that explosive move. And that's why most of us have a good chunk of it.